tonight.
What are we hiding by not letting those documents come out?
Nike is making the smartest bet that you can make in the fashion business. It's betting on black.
I don't regret it at all. I didn't say anything on there that's career-ending.
Arizona's Republican governor, Doug Ducey, chose former Senator Jon Kyl to fill John McCain's Senate seat. Kyl is currently leading an outside audit into allegations of liberal bias at Facebook and is guiding Brett Kavanaugh through his Supreme Court confirmation. At least 8 people are dead and 150 injured after a typhoon made landfall in southern Japan. The National Weather Agency says Jebi is the strongest typhoon to hit the country in 25 years, and government officials are asking more than 1.2 million people to evacuate. The CEO of USA Gymnastics has quit after less than 10 months on the job. Carrie Perry was criticized by victims of Larry Nassar and by the U.S. Olympics Committee for hiring a coach who had defended the former team doctor, even as women spoke out against him. The journey for migrants from northern Africa to Italy by sea is deadlier than ever, despite fewer people attempting it. 1 in every 18 migrants died or went missing on the most trafficked route across the Mediterranean this year through July, more than double the rate in the same period last year.
Progressives have been waiting for months to see Democrats really put up a fight against Brett Kavanaugh's nomination. Today, during the opening round of his confirmation hearings, they got it.
We have not been given an opportunity to have a meaningful hearing on this nominee.
And we believe this hearing should be
postponed.
This is
the American people.
Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Directly from Judge Kavanaugh later this afternoon.
Democrats were complaining about having access to only a small fraction of Kavanaugh's records and having only hours to review the 42,000 pages that were released last night.
What is the rush? What are we hiding by not letting those documents come out?
They were trying to use a parliamentary move to shut the hearings down until they got more docs or more time. It was largely symbolic. Chuck Grassley, the chairman of the committee, was having none of it.
How long you want to go on with this, because I'm not going to entertain any of the motions you're making.
While Democratic senators tried to stall with protests from the dais, activists were protesting from their seats in the audience.
No, Kavanaugh! No, Kavanaugh!
But will all these disruptions amount to any lasting damage for Brett Kavanaugh? Probably not. Things were back to normal at the hearing by the afternoon.
I will do equal right to the poor and to the rich. I will always strive to preserve the Constitution of the United States and the American rule of law.
And Supreme Court nominees rarely go down. In the last 45 years, only one nominee failed his confirmation vote, Robert Bork. He's the arch-conservative Ronald Reagan nominated in 1987, who liberals attacked over his opposition to civil rights legislation, among other things. This pissed off conservatives so much, they started using Bork's name as a verb, meaning to publicly vilify a nominee. But Bork still might have been approved if not for his confirmation hearings, where he came across as combative, dismissive of senators' questions, and kind of arrogant. Since then, 14 justices have been confirmed. And unless Kavanaugh borks himself, he'll probably be number 15. So what was the point of today's parliamentary pyrotechnics? I spoke to one of the members on the committee, Democratic Senator Chris Coons. Do you think Democrats really have a chance of derailing his nomination?
It's going to require some unexpected development. It's going to require someone who's got information that they really want to become public to share it publicly, or it's going to depend on Judge Kavanaugh saying things in defense of his record that would move some members of the Senate to change their votes.
Kavanaugh's elevation to the Supreme Court would be a big deal, but it would overshadow an even bigger achievement by this administration. President Trump is already well on his way to remaking the federal judiciary. Take the 13 federal appellate courts, or circuit courts. Since Trump came into office, he has nominated, and the Senate has confirmed, 26 judges. That means of current appellate judges, Trump has chosen 1 in 7. It's the most any recent president has had successfully confirmed in his first 2 years in office. And there are still 13 standing vacancies on the circuit courts.
The Supreme Court hears 100 cases a year. It rejects the vast majority of appeals that come to it. So really, when you're talking about, if you're a person who lives in Texas, the Fifth Circuit is really your Supreme Court, because that's where the appeals end, essentially, except for a tiny, tiny percentage where the Supreme Court decides to hear a case.
In some circuits, like the Fifth Circuit, which comprises Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, Trump's conservative appointments don't change the status quo. But in the liberal-leaning Ninth Circuit, he has an opportunity to shift things. There are 29 judgeships in the Ninth Circuit, and 7 of those are vacant right now.
If you do the math, he's confirmed 1. If he were to confirm 7 more, he would have appointed a quarter of the active judges in the Ninth Circuit. And so that could have a huge impact. But again, some of those vacancies were occupied by Republican appointees. But still, some of them are in their 70s and even older. But they would be replaced by somebody who's 45, for example.
Trump hasn't been as busy at the district court level, where out of 673 judges, there are currently 120 vacancies. The Senate has only approved 33 of the president's district court nominations, and 68 nominations are pending. The Senate is expected to vote on 8 of those this week. According to the Federal Judicial Center, 57% of the judges serving in the appeals, district, and Supreme Courts were appointed by Democratic presidents, and 43% by Republican presidents. Whatever else happens in his presidency, Trump is going to make progress in narrowing that gap.
Iraq's southern province is home to some of the world's largest oil reserves. But unemployment is soaring. The current Prime Minister, Haider al-Abadi, responded by promising more investment in Basra. But residents here say he's neglected the region's economic crisis for too long.
يسقط العباد وتسقط الحكومة مالت العباد كلها كلا كلا يا عبادي كلا كلا يا عبادي كلا كلا يا عبادي.
Decades of war has destroyed Iraq's economy and its infrastructure. But whilst fighting Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, maintaining things like water and electricity supplies wasn't a priority.
انتوا ليش جاتوا اليوم؟
كلهم ما ريدوا ما ريدوا ونضل ثابتين بأرضنا وما نزحزح من عندها لحد ما يطلعون دولي ويصححون الوضع.
أكبر شرشارية مجلس البصرة أكبر شرشارية مجلس البصرة.
The systems in the south are in near total collapse. The demonstrations quickly turned violent after security forces used live ammunition. A protester gave Vice News this footage, claiming it showed an unarmed civilian killed by the army. Keen to defuse the situation, Abadi said he supported the right to protest peacefully and promised the deaths of the protesters would be investigated fully. While we were there filming, the army tried to put on a show of hospitality, handing out water, juice, and cigarettes.
مطالبنا كانت 3 ماي وكهرباء والعاطلين على العمل هسه اختلفت ما اريدن والله ما لي قتلوا بينا والله ما لي عليكم ايها الجنود تقتلون شعبا بأمر الطغاة.
For years, dams in Turkey, Syria, and Iran have reduced the freshwater levels in Iraq's 2 main rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates. They're now at critically low levels, and it might be irreversible. Salty seawater has entered into Basra's canals and streams, contaminating drinking water supplies and turning once fertile land into desert, killing crops, livestock, and fish.
مالح ديدلي.
السمك تقدر تعيش؟
لا حتى بعض الأسماك الملحية ما تعيش وتركيزها بال40 فوق.
But farming, Iraq's second biggest industry after oil, is crucial for the country's economic recovery after decades of war and insurrection. Ismail Hayani used to breed fish here in a series of reservoirs on the southeast border with Iran.
مو هذا مستوى الماء هذا الحد اللي هنا ويرتفع عندنا مترين بالضبط.
ليش هذه السنة مظاهرات مو مثل السنة الماضية؟ نعم. ليش شنو تغيرت هالسنة؟
نعم بالنسبة للماء ترى بس مو بصرة هاي واحدة. ثاني شيء تجاهل الحكومة، انطوهم امل اني خدمات وطوهم امل شغلات بس ما اجتها، العالم طقت روحها. هسه يطلعون مظاهرات ما حد يطلع لهم، بالعكس يدزون عليهم جيش يفلشون خيامهم، يرمون بالرصاص الحر، غازات مسيلة للدموع.
اللي ما تتغير ايش راح تسوون؟ ايش راح تسوون بعد؟
الا تصير ثورة عالمة شعبية.
تصدق راح تصير ثورة
ان شاء الله.
The Iraqi national infrastructure is so bad that it has to rely on Iran for some of its electricity. But Iran turned that supply off in July after a row over unpaid bills.
وتعرف زين اكو هذا فقراء ما عندها، هسه ما عندها هسه نقول البطاله، بس العالم اكو ما عندها يجيب له ماي ما يقدر يشتري، سبح ما حد قاعد يسبح، يشرب.
علينا قلت لك مثل ما قلت كل احنا نتعاون حتى نمشي صح.
Asad al-Aidani is the governor of Basra and from the same party as Abadi. And at this meeting with the province's tribal leaders, the focal point for protesters' resentment.
Why do people who live in Basra, the richest province in Iraq, why can't they get access to clean water and regular electricity?
مع الأسف أنه سوء الإدارة السابقة مو اللي 15 سنة اللي ممكن بعد سقوط صدام. قلنا كثير من المواضيع ممكن أنه سوء إدارة المشاريع هذا جزء من الفساد.
But do you understand when Iraqi citizens who lived through Saddam and then the fall of Saddam and then Al-Qaeda and then Daesh and Islamic State, they don't believe anything will change? How can you convince them that you mean it this time, that something will change?
إن شاء الله نقول أنه ممكن هاي الانتخابات ولدت مجلس نواب جديد بنسبة عالية من الجدة.
Then what do you say to the protesters that we've spoken to who say they don't believe anything that politicians say, that nothing has changed and nothing will change?
كم واحد قال هيك شيء؟
أكثرهم اللي حكينا وياهم.
كم واحد؟
يعني 200 300 بس مو بس بالمظاهرات، هم بالزراعة.
سمحي. إذا أكو 300 طلعوا ببريطانيا طالبوا باستقالة رئيس وزراء، لازم يستقيل؟ مو كل مطالبة من 200 واحد يجب أن أقيل للحكومة.
Hayani has lived in Basra his whole life. His family are here, so he's reluctant to move elsewhere. He can't afford to either. So he has one last chance to save his livelihood, moving his remaining fish to a new reservoir, which uses a different water source.
شنو المستقبل للمزرعات مالت السمك؟
ما أعتقد الدولة عندها حل، لا هي بس بالكراسي ولا هي بالانتخابات ولا هي بالمناصب. يجب أن يلقون لنا حل، خاصة هاي المزارع وما عندنا غيرها، لا موظفين ولا شيء ولا يدخل لنا أي دخل. هسه هاي المزارع واقفة، احنا قاعدين بالبيت وساكتين ما عندنا شيء.
I just bought 3 days ago.
On Sunday, regular everyday Americans started defiling a symbol that for years has stood for determination, victory, and freedom.
5 pairs of shoes in there, all gonna let them burn.
So, yeah, people got mad and started cutting up their Nike socks because Colin Kaepernick popped up on the internet with a swoosh on his face. The context for this ad is pretty obvious. Colin Kaepernick has protested police treatment of minorities by kneeling during the pregame national anthem. And now Nike is openly endorsing his message by paying Kaepernick to represent its brand. So by the transitive property, people who hate Kaepernick now hate Nike, hence the flaming shoes. This whole ad campaign might seem like a pretty big risk, but actually Nike is making the smartest bet that you can make in the fashion and culture business. It's betting on black, or more specifically, it's betting on black people.
Mike, what's up?
Michael Jordan was famously quoted as saying that he stayed out of politics because Republicans buy shoes too. And yeah, maybe they do.
Mike, man.
But Nike knows that not all customers are created equal. I talked with Ian Schaefer, who ran an ad agency that's worked with Nike in the past, and he said Nike's probably not too worried about alienating people.
I think they're fairly insulated from whatever fallout will happen from this. And if people want to hold on to this, as a reason to never buy Nike again, I think Nike is very okay with losing those people as customers. They've now come to the realization that the people who wear their products, namely, certainly like athletes and skateboarders, but they're urban artists. They are civil rights icons. They are lots of people who contribute positively and really shape culture. And I would say, honestly, it's not very likely that angry, white, 40-plus-year-old men are going to be the ones that are actually creating culture.
So this is the part where I remind everyone that Nike is still a multinational corporation. They still have issues with sweatshop labor, and they still have issues with diversity in their own company. And they're not that unique. Plenty of other companies have also embraced civil rights heroes, usually after the fact. Nike's just doing it in real time. Also, they just wrapped an 8-year sponsorship deal with the NFL. So even if this whole Kaepernick thing goes sideways, they're still going to be making a bunch of money off of football. An Apex marketing group is reporting that in less than 24 hours, that ad campaign has generated more than $43 million in media exposure. So don't think of this as some shoe company suddenly becoming a warrior for social justice. It's one brand making a very calculated decision and betting that its brand is stronger than the competing brand. And in this case, that competing brand is not Adidas. It's this guy.
Get that son of a bitch off the field right now. Out. He's fired. He's fired!
Goose, 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 goose. Lets them know it's feeding time. Chick, chick, chick. Chick, 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 chick. Come on, guys, come on, guys.
Darren Knight is an Alabama comedian who shot to internet fame when his character Southern Mama went viral.
You're spending too much time chasing men. You need to start spending a little bit more time chasing your Bibles.
His videos rack up millions, sometimes tens of millions of views.
Jemison, pay attention to the coach. I didn't pay $84 for you to stand out there and catch butterflies and pick flowers.
Knight was one of 10 comics chosen by Variety magazine to perform at Just for Laughs, the largest and most prestigious stand-up comedy festival in the world. He was the only white guy on the bill. No video has emerged of his set, but Knight bombed and was booed off stage when he admonished his fellow comedians for being too focused on subjects like sexism and racism. This, said the rookie stand-up, was not what comedy was about. Saturday Night Live freshman Chris Redd was waiting for Knight when he got off stage.
You sat there and bombed the whole time and decided about what comedy is?
It was the bomb heard round the comedy world. Twitter exploded, and he was denounced as a racist and homophobe. His detractors were uncompromising. Knight's opinions on comedy, and a variety of other issues, had no place in comedy. Before the dust had settled, Knight's New York-based talent agency, ICM Partners, had dropped him.
All you had to do was shut the fuck up and take that bomb. You run around being Southern Mama and you ended up being a fucking Alabama racist, homophobic person.
For most up-and-coming comics, this would be the end of the line. But not for Knight. His videos and stage act have translated into millions of dollars in revenue, taking Knight from a single-wide trailer in the woods to a sprawling antebellum-era plantation, and to the front lines of the comedy culture wars. When I listen to this podcast and someone says, casually, you're a racist and a homophobe.
Yeah.
Are you a racist?
No, I'm not a racist.
You a homophobe?
No, I'm not a homophobe.
Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I said that I'm not going to get up here and I'm not going to talk about anyone's race. I'm not going to talk about anyone's sexual orientation. It's my job as a comedian to talk about things that we can all relate to and to make you laugh.
You don't regret it?
I don't regret it at all. I didn't say anything on there that's career-ending.
Bombing at an elite comedy festival doesn't bother Knight much. He already has a huge paying audience that exists well outside the comedy mainstream.
How y'all doing tonight, Oklahoma? Girl, that looks good on you. 93% of Southern women, they're gonna get this eat shit look on their face. This old piece of shit.
I started going to some of these shows. These women were saying, "You're my spirit animal." I mean, we sold out 150 shows in a row.
In 2016, Knight caught the eye of a New Jersey-based producer, John Edmonds Kozma. Kozma quickly snapped him up as a client.
This is total gross. It's 2 years since we started. It's 3.3. Here's our reach. Our reach is like this past 7 days is close to 30 million.
They're pretty impressive numbers, I have to say.
Yes.
I have to say, yeah. Tell me what I should know about Darren.
I think it's worth $100 million.
Not overpromising?
My thought was it was a Tyler Perry business model.
Because we all got that one friend posting pictures on Facebook, holding the camera up way high like, "Yo, look at my new shoes."
So you have, I mean, in a way, you're sort of safe in saying what you want to say, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, I mean, you have a built-in audience that's been very loyal to you.
Yes.
Like this kind of comedy world is like, we don't like this guy. He's outside of the mainstream. He's outside. Well, we've been jobbing in New York clubs forever, that kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So, out of the gate, identity is a big part of this, right?
Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who on the stage is straight. It doesn't matter who on the stage is gay. It doesn't matter who on the stage is white. It doesn't matter who on the stage is black, Latino, Asian. That should not matter.
What matters?
If you're a comedian, being funny. If you're a contractor building something that's not going to collapse on someone's head. As a comedian, it's not my job to get out there and to single anybody out.
You can't say this, you can't say that. This person's gonna get offended, that person's gonna get offended. You can't call babies by the boy and the girl, you gotta call them babies until they're grown enough to decide if they wanna be a man or a woman. Give me a fucking break. You got a dick swing between your legs, go to the men's bathroom. If you don't, you go to the female bathroom. Why are we making life so difficult? Let's figure this shit out together, folks. Make things a little bit more simpler.
Do you see now that there's kind of a shift in that if you don't have similar politics, people find it harder to like your stuff?
Because we've got so many things happening in this country from every aspect. And we're seeing dividends in this country more now than we've ever seen before. And
so you see those divisions in comedy too?
Absolutely. And that's another reason that I made the statement that I did, is because when it comes to comedy, or when it comes to your place of religion, or when it comes to your home and with your family and friends, this is a place that all that needs to be set aside. And you just kind of need to come together and enjoy each other's company.
So we